What's up, everybody? It's Corey, host of the Grease Pole Podcast. Welcome to the channel. Feel free to hit that subscribe button as we continue our coverage of all things Super Bowl 57 here. And, kind of looking at the rosters, I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but you kind of look back at past Super Bowls and you go, holy fuck, that dude was on the Super Bowl roster, right? You think back to like that San Diego Chargers team that made it to Super Bowl, I think it was Super Bowl 30, when they got the shit beat out of them by San Francisco. Steve Young throwing for 6 touchdowns. Stan Humphries was quarterback. You had Mark Say was a wide receiver, Stanley Pritchard, and you're like, what the fuck? How did this team make it to a Super Bowl, right? So just kind of looking back at Super Bowls in years past, and that's not the case for either team here. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that neither team belongs, because both do. They were the 1 seeds, obviously. But, you kind of have pieces of each and every roster, right? Even if you look back at the Super Bowl 52 roster, you know what I mean? Corey Clement scores a touchdown, and I think he's like a practice squad guy in Arizona right now. It's crazy to kind of see the turnover in the league sometimes, and where these people that you're fucking hammered and, they catch a touchdown against the Patriots and you're like, I love this motherfucker. And then they end up completely irrelevant and out of your life 5 years later. It's insane. But I'm not downplaying Corey Clement. Much love to him. But I wanted to take a look at for a moment somebody today that you would have thought may have been that, but isn't anymore. And that's Reed Blankenship. It's funny. I have this weird kind of fascination with off the radar Eagle, getting jerseys that aren't, Jalen Hurts or whomever. And I remember saying to V, like, I want to read Blankenship jersey. That dude's fucking awesome. And, that was back in the preseason when he was fighting for a roster spot. And now here he is, having played a huge role in helping this team get to the Super Bowl. So what I wanted to do today was take a look at kind of his journey and how he got here and the role that he's played to get the Birds into Super Bowl 57. But before we do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you like the video. Feel free to leave us comment, or content, whatever the fuck you feel like. And appreciate your support here for the Grease Pole Podcast. So, look, it's no secret. Everybody knows Philly loves an underdog. It's a city comprised of blue-collar, chip-on-your-shoulder type people that love nothing more than throwing a middle finger in the face of anybody that says you're not good enough. And they say teams take on the identity of the city they play in. And there's a reason why the Birds have historically performed better as an underdog, right? Just look at Super Bowl 52. And what this fan base loves even more is, the Eagles. And furthermore, when a player for the Eagles exemplifies what the city stands for. And if you're looking for a perfect embodiment of the mindset of the city of Philadelphia, look no further than Reed Blankenship, who went to high school in Alabama, where he played basketball and football. He did a little bit of everything on offense. He played quarterback, he played running back, he played receiver. Now, he wasn't a 5-star recruit. His most significant scholarship offer came from Minnesota. The rest were kind of smaller Division II schools, but Blankenship opted to stay somewhat local and attend Middle Tennessee State. And this is a guy that I saw this story recently. Being from Alabama, he received an invite from Nick Saban to a camp in Tuscaloosa prior to his senior year in high school. And obviously, Saban's Christ down there. So naturally, after going through all the drills and the workouts, Blankenship wanted to meet the Alabama coach and shake his hand. I guess Saban must have been underwhelmed by his workout, so afterwards he approached Blankenship and his parents and just offered up a hearty handshake and walked away. That moment put a massive chip on Reed Blankenship's shoulder that's still there to this day, and you can tell by the way he plays the game. So going back to college, he was named a starter from Middle Tennessee State, his second game as a true freshman, and he helped them get a win over Syracuse, which is a Power 5 school, of course. So he became a full-time starter as a sophomore in 2018, where he really began to make some noise, particularly against Old Dominion when he won the Bronco Nagurski National Defensive Player of the Week award for tallying 17 tackles along with a sack and a pick six that he took 100 yards to the house. He was named a team captain in 2019, but suffered a season-ending leg injury. He returned in 2020 to lead the team in tackles and decided to return to Middle Tennessee in 2021, despite being projected as a 4th or 5th round pick. Once again, all he did was lead the team in tackles with 110 as a senior, but he didn't get an invite to the NFL Combine. What's crazy is that his NFL scouting report essentially says that he couldn't tackle, as if the 419 tackles he accumulated at Middle Tennessee State were by accident or irrelevant. And you watch him play and you'll immediately notice that's bullshit. So the 2022 draft came and went, and Blankenship went undrafted. I can remember watching tape on him last year leading up to the draft and being impressed with how he was seemingly always around the ball, his ability to make open field tackles. So following the draft, when the list of undrafted free agent pickups started kind of trickling out and I saw Blankenship's name as an Eagle, I was way more excited than somebody should be for an undrafted rookie signing. This past summer saw him battle with Kayvon Wallace and Jaquiski Tart for the final safety spots on the 53-man roster. He had his best showing to that point in the final game of the preseason against Miami and ended up surviving the final round of cuts. Initially, once the regular season arrived, he was mostly just a contributor on special teams. He was inactive, healthy scratch for a handful of games as well. But when he was active, he stood out on a struggling special teams unit. He didn't see much playing time on defense, sitting behind Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who led the league in interceptions at the time. But suddenly, week 12 against the Packers, and Gardner-Johnson goes down with an injury. So against Green Bay on Monday Night Football, prime time against Aaron Rodgers, and Blankenship, who's an undrafted rookie, finds himself in the game now as the every down safety, getting his first real taste of NFL action against a future Hall of Famer. And after being thrust into the game, all he did was snag his first career interception, which is a beautiful read off Aaron Rodgers, and led the team in tackles that night, finishing with 6. He would go on to start 5 of the Eagles' last 6 regular season games up until Gardner-Johnson returned in Week 18, racking up 34 tackles during that time. With both Gardner-Johnson and Avonte Maddox back in the NFC Championship, that forced Blankenship out of the starting lineup, but he still made 11 tackles and forced a fumble and recovered said fumble as well against San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. So Blankenship, who wasn't good enough to get an invite to the Combine, who didn't get drafted, supposedly couldn't tackle, who didn't get a dime up front to sign with the Eagles and barely made the final roster, ended up as Pro Football Focus's 19th rated safety out of 100 eligible players that played a minimum of 200 snaps on defense. He's gone from an afterthought to many to a guy that, even if he's not a starter, makes the most of his opportunities and sub packages and manages to still find a way to make an impact on the game. One thing's for sure, Reed Blankenship won't back down from Patrick Mahomes. And with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson due to become a free agent and due to get paid, it's very possible that Howie Roseman looks at Blankenship and goes, you know what, we're good with him back there. And I can't speak for Howie, but as an Eagles fan, I'd love to see Gardner-Johnson back in Philly. Of course, everybody would. But if not, personally, I'd be perfectly fine with 32 as a starting safety, and it wouldn't worry me not one bit to see him back there. So it's Super Bowl week, Eagles fans. What are your thoughts on Blankenship? What are your thoughts on his career? How do you feel about him as a player? Should Gardner-Johnson not come back? And if he's back there for a full 17 games next year, if he's entrusted with the starting position? Leave a comment below, as we're going to continue to bring you content covering Super Bowl 57 leading up to kickoff. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any Super Bowl content. And after that, we've got a shit ton coming your way on the NFL draft. Don't forget the flagship, the Grease Pole Podcast, which comes your way each and every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, and is also simulcast here on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell an Eagles fan about us, won't you? We'll see you next time. As always, go Birds.